Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 370. I kicked off with d4 and we got a very interesting opening known as the modern Benoni. So it started with knight f6, c4, and e6, and I play knight c3, expecting the bishop to come out to b4 and get a typical Nimzo Indian kind of position, but instead my opponent plays c5. See, it's the third choice here after bishop b4, the Nimzo, or d5 going back to a queen's gambit, declined, or c5, the Benoni. So this particular move order is a bit unusual also because when I'm playing this, I do play the Benoni sometimes. What I'll do is I will play the Nimzo after knight c3. After this move, I'll come out with the bishop and play a Nimzo Indian. But if my opponent plays the move knight to f3 to avoid the Nimzo Indian, then sometimes I'll play the Benoni here. And the difference is that the knight has blocked the f-pawn from coming forward, so it's not quite as risky an opening, although it's still the Benoni. It's still a risky opening. Anyway, in this game, my opponent was not worried about the f-pawn, and so we'll get to see this f-pawn attack. Okay, so c5, d5. E takes, these are all the main moves, d6, and now I played the immediate e4. Once again, looks like knight f3 is actually the most popular move here, but e4, grabbing space in the center. I'm avoiding knight f3 because I'm planning to play f4 here. And my opponent plays g6, the almost universal way of playing it. The compensation that black gets for the Benoni, he kind of gives up the center and has a dangerously weak pawn on d6, but he gets a good diagonal for his bishop and ideas of counterattacking on the queen side. So now I go f4, and this is the number 2 choice. Number 1, once again, is knight f3, and maybe that's a little safer way to play, but this is an interesting attacking line with f4 here, and can be difficult for black to defend. So the move here, and this is about as far as I know it. The main move here is bishop b5 check, which I wasn't aware of, or maybe I had been and I just forgot it, and I just played knight f3. So I just wanted to explore this bishop b5 check line. One thing that's interesting is that the main move here is knight fd7. The thing is that white is going to follow up with e5, and it's going to kick this knight. If knight bd7 is played here, which is sort of the natural way to block the check. And so the knights kind of stumble over each other. So knight fd7 is played. And then a4, this is a very funny move. But if we don't play a4, if we just go ahead with the immediate knight f3, then a6 is going to kick the bishop and it'll drop back here, and then b4. And black is getting some quick counterplay. Kind of interesting. So a bit of a subtle maneuver here. After knight f to d7, the move is a4, and then castles, and now knight f3. And now at this point, if a6 is played, the bishop is just going to drop back to d3, but the move b5 is not coming. So this is the move order that normally is played to get into the game. And now let's see, black can follow up with knight a6 or a6. f5 is an interesting try, but it's a bit of a weakening move, and you get similar kind of play to the game. White can push on with either the e-pawn or the f-pawn or both, and well, he's going to castle too, get a rook on the f-file, and then push the pawns, and get a pretty interesting attack. So let's go back to the game. We'll see some similar ideas. So let's see, place the pawns, pawn on f4, bishop g7. Yeah, right here, instead of bishop b5, I played knight f3. And this is how the game went, and my opponent castled. So I guess this is a line still. And now I've just developed the bishop directly to d3. Looks like e2 is slightly more popular, but I thought this might be an interesting diagonal to put it on as well. Bishop e2. The problem with bishop d3, I guess, is it blocks the queen's defense of the d-pawn. So yeah, I guess bishop e2 is more accurate. So I play bishop d3, and he plays a6, building up for b5. So we're out of the opening book now. I get in this move a4, so we get a similar kind of position. And bishop g4, hitting my knight, and I castle. Rook e8. Yep, getting this counter pressure on the e-pawn. And at some point I have to start pushing those pawns forward. The chess engine likes a5 here. It's often an idea to lock down the queen side before starting on operations on the king side. But, well, I wanted to get my queen over to the king side, so I played queen e1. Yeah, so I guess this is just not an accurate move. So h3, a5, or bishop c2, developing the bishop. Those are the ways to play it. And king to h1, getting off this dangerous diagonal. Always watch out for this diagonal. So I guess it just takes a little more build-up to correctly prosecute the attack. So my moves are just not subtle enough. And, well, he played bishop takes f3, but I guess he could have played knight takes e4 here. Cancel that. Knight takes e4. How was this possible? Knight takes e4. So he's nabbed a pawn. And then f5, taking advantage of the pin. So putting my queen opposite my opponent's rook, that was a mistake. It lets him grab a pawn. I'm going to win a pawn back, but he's dissipated my attack quite a bit with this sequence. So he missed that tactic and played bishop takes f3. I take back. And then he went knight bd7, just completing his development, and I get my queen over to the king side. And still good for black here, according to the chess engine. So he pushed on with c4. I dropped the bishop back to c2. I keep hold of my strong center here. And knight to c5. So putting pressure on the e-pawn and kind of forcing my hand. So I push on with e5. But you see by now the chess engine thinks that black should be doing fine here. So let's watch how this goes during the game. e5, d takes, and f takes. And I was aware this was a sacrifice, but I'm opening up lines. I thought the bishop coming to the h6 square would be dangerous. He plays knight takes d5. And all of a sudden I'm better. A very natural move. Well, that's what happens in these sharp positions. So for white to keep the edge, or for black to keep the edge, he should play rook takes e5 or knight to d7. So let's take a look at rook takes e5. And then there's no good way to exploit this. I've got bishop to g5. Oh, and he sacks the exchange, bishop to g5, and he can play rook takes g5 or knight c to d7. Probably that's a more conservative and likely choice. But it looks like, I'm getting my pieces into the attack, but it looks like he's managing to hold on. Interesting. Okay, so he took with the knight, and kind of a natural move, but not the most accurate way to play. And I developed my bishop with a tempo, bishop to g5. I've got control of the f6 square, so he can't blockade on f6. He played queen to b6, looking at a loose pawn over here. Okay, and now this is big trouble. So we get into some crazy tactics here, but I guess this is just losing the knight. I thought he had planned this, because after I take the knight, he takes the pawn with a double attack, so it doesn't appear to be losing a piece at first. So, and in fact, I play rook a to f1 and give the piece back. But because of this exchange, in fact, if he were to take here, he didn't play this. This reestablishes material equality. I've won a knight here, and he's gotten a bishop. He actually has more than equality because he's gobbled up a couple of pawns here. But now this knight f6 move is just killing. So it looks like my threats are just too big in this position. It's interesting, because after he trades the knight, the bishop comes to f6, and then I have mating ideas with the queen. So I'll just show this. Bishop takes. Let's check this, rather. Queen takes h7 check. It's even faster than bishop takes f6. It's always nice to find these mating combinations. So bishop takes f6 still keeps an advantage for white, but queen takes h7 check is a much more forcing move. And rook h3 check, king to g8, and now you take on f6. And the threat of rook here is unstoppable. Pretty cute. Okay, yeah, you got to keep an eye out for those mates. So a very dangerous position. So really, after what was the move here? Yeah, so it was really this queen queen to b6 move here. Then he played it. That was the downfall. And he got some counter chances with these tactics. I take a piece. He threatens some pieces, but I can double up on the f-file and make bigger threats. So he doesn't have time to grab the bishop, and I stay a piece up. So he takes the pawn over here. He's got a bunch of pawns for a piece. If everything just, if all the pieces just disappeared from the board, then then this would still be an okay position for black with his extra pawns for a piece. If we got into an endgame without the queens and the heavy pieces, I mean. Okay, after taking the pawn, I play this knight f6 check. He grabs it, and I play bishop takes f6. And thinking I have some killer threats here with the queen coming in to deliver mate, and he's got to move his queen away. He tries queen h5, and I just went in for the queen trade. I didn't see anything else, and I didn't spot the tactic right away, but this is actually a mate in 5 from this point if you want to pause the video here and see if you can work it all out. And it starts with queen takes queen. And he takes back. I guess it doesn't matter too much what he does at this point. Some rook move is a little better, but I'm just going to come into e6 and g7 and mate him if he doesn't take the queen. But when he takes the queen, there we go. G takes h5, then rook g3 check is fatal. And I did finally spot the idea at this point. I was wondering after the exchange of queens what to do here, and I said, there's an open g file. Something you should, of course, think about before embarking in that trade. And of course something black should have thought about before putting the queen there, but he was already in big trouble. So king to f8 is the only move, and now the very nice finishing touch. You bring the second bishop in, supporting the rook to come to the g8 square, and now mate is unavoidable. He went ahead and let me play it out to mate. He played knight to e4, forking some pieces, but mate ends the game, so that's how it ended. Nice little finish there. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.